This story is titled, Fix Your Face, Not Computers. Mom mocked me for years. Then I sold my code for $2. 8 and cut them off. My family used to laugh at me for working at Target. Now they're the ones begging for my help after I quietly became a millionaire and inherited my grandparents' estate. My sister? She was always the golden child, the doctor who could do no wrong. I was just the punchline. I'm 28 now, and for as long as I can remember, my family made it crystal clear who they thought mattered more. My parents didn't even try to hide it. Vera was the favorite, and I was, well, not. Growing up, it was always, Vera got straight A's again, or Vera just made the honors program. Meanwhile, my report cards barely got a glance. And here's the thing, I wasn't a bad student. Solid B's, a sprinkling of A's here and there. But I wasn't the academic prodigy my sister was. Instead, I was hands-on. While Vera spent her evenings memorizing biology textbooks, I was the kid taking apart old laptops and putting them back together, or fixing a neighbor's broken deck for some extra cash. But my dad? He was all about status. He worked as a mid-level corporate manager, constantly promising that his big promotion was just around the corner. Spoiler alert, it never came. The guy even had his home office plastered with motivational posters that said things like persistence and excellence, which was pretty ironic considering he hadn't climbed a single rung on the corporate ladder in over 10 years. My mom wasn't much better. She taught high school and spent most of her free time bragging about her brilliant daughter to her coworkers. Meanwhile, I was lucky to get a lukewarm, "That's nice, honey," when I won the school's woodworking competition. No congratulations, no sense of pride, just a distracted nod before she went right back to gushing over Vera's latest accomplishment. When it came time for college, Vera got into a top private university with a partial scholarship. My parents stretched every resource they had, took out loans, refinanced the house, something I only found out about later, to make sure she got there. Then it was my turn. The conversation? Brutal. Community college has decent programs, and you can work to pay for it yourself. Message received loud and clear. The day Vera officially became Dr. Vera, she strolled into our parents' house with her diploma in one hand and a job offer from some prestigious hospital in the other. From that moment, I wasn't just the less favored child anymore. I was the family punching bag. They didn't just prefer her, they actively ridiculed me. There was this one dinner I'll never forget. My dad leaned back in his chair, smirking, and said, "She's a doctor saving lives, and you're what? Scanning groceries at Target?" I just stared at him, stunned. Who says that to their own son? But he didn't stop there. Honestly, Callan, if Vera didn't exist, we wouldn't have anyone to be proud of. At least one of our kids turned out worth something. He didn't even blink, just kept eating like he hadn't called his own son worthless. My mom laughed so hard she had to dab her eyes with a napkin. "Don't be so dramatic," she added. "He's just saying we can't exactly brag about someone who stocks shelves." Vera didn't say a word. She sat there with this smug little smile, sipping her sparkling water like she was above it all. Funny thing is, just the week before, I'd fixed her laptop for free after she spilled coffee all over it. My useless skills were pretty convenient when she needed them. Huh? That dinner was just one example. They made ripping into me their favorite pastime. Holidays, birthdays, random Sunday dinners. My mom would sigh and say, "Maybe someday you'll do something important," while my dad would just shake his head. They even had this family achievement wall in the hallway. It was covered in about 20 photos of Vera, her med school graduation, her first white coat, her standing next to some big shot doctor. My picture? Just one. My high school graduation photo. And I'm pretty sure they only put it up because my grandparents complained about not seeing me on the wall. Vera didn't make things easier either. Callan, the minimum wager. She once called me in front of the entire extended family. "You should put that on your name tag," she joked the day she bought her BMW. And of course, my parents couldn't stop bragging about her new car, asking me when I was finally going to get rid of my old Civic. When she bought her condo, they asked when I'd stop living like a broke college student. When she took a vacation to Europe, they reminded me, people with real jobs get to travel. One Christmas, my dad handed me a book titled From Mediocrity to Success, Finding Your Path, in front of everyone. My uncle choked on his eggnog. I tried everything to deal with it, staying quiet, defending myself, even skipping family events. Nothing worked. The second I stepped through their door, I became their favorite target again. The only people who ever stood up for me were my grandparents. My grandpa once snapped at my dad after a particularly harsh remark. "That boy works harder than you know, Thorne." My dad just sneered and said, "We're only teasing." Grandma June would always pull me aside to say she was proud of me, but her kind words didn't change the dynamic. Grandpa was the only one who really got me. He'd spent his whole life as a carpenter, building with his hands, like I love to do. He used to say, "Some people build with their minds, others with their hands. Both kinds shape the world." When I was 12, he gave me my first toolbox and taught me how to fix things instead of tossing them out. Those skills turned out to be more valuable than anyone in my family ever imagined. Vera stayed the golden child. I was still the disappointment they hoped would finally grow up. But what they didn't know was that I'd been quietly building something big on the side. I scraped together enough for a down payment on a rundown duplex, fixed it up myself on weekends, rented out both units, and used the profits to buy another property, then another. I never said a word to my family. Why bother? They'd just find a way to make it about Vera anyway. Elira, my girlfriend, was the only one who knew the real me. She's sharp, calm, and has this uncanny ability to see through people's bullshit. I never brought her around my family because I knew exactly how they'd react. Mom would probably ask her when she planned to get a real job at her bookstore, and Dad would make some smart remark about Vera dating a neurosurgeon once. But Elira never cared about proving anything. She's been my anchor through all of this. One night, after yet another family dinner where my dad suggested I shadow Vera at the hospital to see what a real job looks like, Elira said something that stuck with me. "You know why your sister needs their approval so badly?" she asked. "Because it's all she's got. No real friends. No hobbies. No life outside of being the perfect daughter. But you've built an entire life they don't even know about. That's your power." She was right. And that power was about to become very real. That's when the dam broke. Vera's voice cracked as she confessed she'd burned through her savings, maxed out every credit card, borrowed from friends, and now she was staring down an eviction notice for her overpriced condo. Her BMW? Already repossessed. She admitted she'd been using Uber to get to interviews and telling Mom and Dad she was having car trouble. Her voice dropped to a whisper as she revealed the kicker. "They don't know, Callan. Mom and Dad think everything's fine." I felt a cold knot forming in my chest. "Is there more?" I asked carefully. Vera hesitated. "Yeah, worse." That's when she finally told me what had really gone down these past few years. Every single vacation my parents had taken, Vera had paid for it. The big kitchen remodel at their house. Vera again. Dad's shiny new car. Her too. Even their weekly dinners at fancy restaurants. She footed the bill every time. "They never said they couldn't afford it," she explained quietly. "They just expected it. Like it was my duty since I was doing so well." She let out a bitter laugh that sounded more like a sob. At first I thought I was just being generous. "But now you're broke." I finished for her. "Yeah," she whispered. "And I don't have anywhere to go." Part of me wanted to tell her to figure it out herself. After all the years she spent looking down her nose at me, laughing at my expense, joining in while Mom and Dad tore me down, I had every right to hang up. But instead, I found myself saying, "I manage a duplex in Westfield. The smaller unit's vacant. You can stay there till you get back on your feet." The truth was, I didn't just manage the duplex. I owned it, along with 4 other properties. But she didn't need to know that. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Why would you help me after everything?" she asked softly. I thought about it for a moment. "Because I'm not them." When I hung up, Elira rolled over beside me in bed and gave me a sleepy look. "You sure about this?" "Not even a little," I admitted. "But it feels like the right thing to do." She gave me a small, knowing smile. "This is why I love you. You're nothing like they think you are." What I didn't tell her was that a part of me appreciated the irony of it all. The family's disappointment was about to bail out the golden child. The Target cashier was giving shelter to the doctor. There was a poetic justice in that. The next morning, I got up early and drove to the duplex to prepare the unit. It wasn't anything fancy, just a modest 2-bedroom with dated appliances, but solid bones. I'd been planning to renovate before renting it out again, but it was clean and fully functional. I stocked the fridge with basic groceries, made sure the utilities were running, and left a spare key under the mat. As I tested the smoke detectors, I found myself thinking how easily our roles could have been reversed if I'd chased Mom and Dad's approval the way Vera had. Maybe I'd be the one calling her in desperation. The thought made me shiver. Vera showed up later that afternoon with 3 suitcases and tear-streaked cheeks. For someone who always seemed so put together, she looked like a wreck. I handed her the keys and gave her a quick tour. "It's not much," I said. "Nothing like your condo." "It's a roof," she murmured. "That's all I need right now." I didn't tell her that the property manager she'd be paying a reduced rent to was actually me. As far as she knew, I'd just helped her get connected. I figured the less she knew about my situation, the better. The first day she settled in, I stopped by to fix a cabinet door that wasn't closing right. Vera was sitting on the tiny concrete patio, staring at her phone. "Everything okay with the place?" I asked gently. She jumped slightly, then forced a smile. "Yeah, it's fine. I'm just job hunting." I nodded and got to work on the cabinet. After a few moments of silence, her voice broke it. "Hey, Callan, do you think you could look at my resume? I feel like I'm missing something. I've applied to 20 places and only gotten 2 callbacks." It was surreal. Vera, the girl who had always been the one with all the answers, was asking me for advice on her career. "Sure," I said, trying not to sound too surprised. "Send it over." Later that night, I sat down and read through her resume. On paper, it was impressive: top medical school, prestigious residency, years of experience at well-known hospitals. But it was also generic. Nothing set her apart from the thousands of other qualified doctors out there. I made some edits and sent back a revised version with notes. Emphasize specific achievements, quantify results, highlight unique skills. Basic stuff I'd picked up over the years that she'd never had to consider before. Her entire career had been on a fast track until it wasn't. "This is actually really helpful," she texted. "Where did you learn all this?" "Some of us have to work for opportunities," I replied plainly. Later that evening, I told Alira. I was skeptical about helping her at first, but she's trying. She's going to figure things out eventually. "Maybe," Alira said softly. "But you're not ready to have that conversation with her yet." A few days later, Mom called. Her voice was dripping with fake concern. "Callan, honey, I heard your sister is staying in some apartment you helped her find." That was thoughtful. No, thank you. No acknowledgement that I'd stepped up where they hadn't. "I'm surprised I could be useful for once," I said flatly. "Yeah, well, she needed a place. We think she should come stay with us instead," Mom added. "She needs to be with family during this temporary setback." I almost laughed. "Did you ask her what she wants?" "Well, no. Maybe try that," I suggested before hanging up. The next day, Dad called. He was more direct. "Callan, your mother and I think Vera should stay with us. It's just temporary while she sorts out some work stuff." "Oh, what happened with her job?" I asked innocently. There was a long pause. "She's between positions. Very normal in the medical field. Anyway, we've got plenty of room here." "Did Vera even tell you she wants to stay with you?" I asked. There was another pause on the line. "Well, no," my dad admitted, his voice defensive. "But we're her parents. Of course she should be with us." "Like I told Mom," I said calmly. "Maybe ask her what she wants first." What I was realizing, piece by piece, was that Vera hadn't told them the whole truth. Sure, they knew she'd moved out of her fancy condo and that I'd helped her find a place. But they had no clue she was flat broke, out of work, and hanging on by a thread. A few days later, I stopped by the duplex to fix a dripping faucet in her unit. Honestly, I could have sent a plumber, but part of me wanted to check on her in person. As I stepped inside, I heard her voice coming from the kitchen. She was on the phone, her tone hushed, but not quiet enough. "Mom, I can't ask him for that," Vera said sharply, her words tight with stress. I couldn't hear what my mother said in response, but Vera's side of the conversation gave it away. "No, I don't know how much he makes." "Yes, I know he's already helping me with rent." "No, I don't think he has savings like that." I froze in the hallway. Were they really trying to get her to ask me for money? After years of treating me like I wasn't worth the air I breathed? "Mom, he works at Target," Vera said suddenly, her voice rising. "He can't just—" "No, I get that you're struggling without my help. Yes, I know I used to pitch in. But that was all I needed to hear." I didn't barge in. I didn't make a scene. I just quietly walked over to the sink and started working on the faucet. When Vera finally came out of the kitchen and saw me standing there, she froze. "How long have you been here?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. "Long enough," I replied evenly, without looking up. "If they're trying to use you to ask me for money, you're out of here." "Got it." She didn't argue. She didn't try to explain. She just nodded silently and walked back to her room. That night, I told Alira everything. She didn't look surprised. Your parents have been draining Vera for years, she said. And now they're trying to push the responsibility onto you. But the difference is, I said quietly, they have no idea I could help them if I wanted to. That month alone, my rental properties brought in over $20,000 in cash flow. And yet they still thought of me as the screw-up scanning barcodes at Target. Alira squeezed my hand gently. That's exactly why you're winning, she said with a small smile. They have no idea who you really are. A few days later, I saw Vera coming home from another job interview. She looked worn out but determined. Just so you know, she told me as she walked past, I made it clear to Mom and Dad that I'm not asking you for money. They didn't take it well. What do you want? I asked her. She hesitated, glancing around the modest duplex. I think I'm starting to understand why you live this way, she admitted. That night, my grandparents invited me and Alira to dinner at their house. Bring Alira, my grandmother insisted over the phone. And Vera's coming too. Something in her tone made me pause. Who else will be there? I asked carefully. A long silence. Then she said, your parents, they asked if they could join us. I almost declined right then and there. But then my grandfather got on the line. Callan, he said softly, I think you should come. Trust me. When Alira and I arrived, everyone was already there. My parents looked tense. Vera seemed drained. And my grandparents? Well, they exchanged a look that I couldn't quite read. Dinner started awkwardly. My parents, suddenly playing the part of warm, supportive parents, tried making small talk with Alira. A bookstore, my mother said with a tight smile, eyeing Alira's simple dress. How quaint. That must be relaxing. Do they let you sit and read all day, or is there actual work involved? Alira just smiled and replied, I love what I do. Books are my world. Unfazed, my father gave a small laugh. Well, hey, as long as someone's bringing in money, right? Then he turned to Alira and added, bet you weren't expecting to date a Target cashier. You must really be into charity work. They both chuckled like they'd landed a clever punchline. And how long have you two been together? My father asked, still smirking. 2 years next month, Alira said evenly. That wiped the smirks off their faces. My mother blinked like she'd just been told we secretly had 3 kids and a mortgage together. 2 years and still going strong, she said slowly. That's admirable. I mean, not everyone has the patience for someone still finding his path in life. When the questions turned to where we lived, I gave vague answers. We've got a place. East Side, my mother pressed. Yeah, something like that. I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Well, it's nice that you're making it work with what you've got, she said with mock sweetness. I'm sure it has character. You must really love each other. My father snorted. Must be that handyman charm. Build her a bookshelf and boom, true love. Alira's smile didn't falter, but under the table, I felt her hand tighten slightly around mine. After dinner, my father cleared his throat like he was about to give a speech. Callan, we wanted to talk to you about something important, he began. Families need to pull together during tough times. My mother jumped in. Your sister's been going through a little career transition. It's been hard on all of us. They carefully avoided words like broke or unemployed, still clinging to appearances. For years, Vera has been so generous to us, my dad added. She helped us enjoy retirement, make home improvements, and take a few trips. Now it's time for you to step up. I stared at him calmly. What exactly are you asking for? They exchanged glances. Well, my dad said, the house needs a new roof. Your mother's car is acting up. About $20,000 would help us get through the next few months. I set my fork down slowly. And you think I have that kind of money? My mother waved a hand dismissively. Obviously, not all at once. But Vera mentioned you've been doing property management on the side. Surely you've saved something by now. I looked at Vera, who wouldn't meet my gaze. I didn't tell them specifics, she murmured. They just kept pressing me. I nodded slowly, then turned back to my parents. Let me get this straight. For years, you mocked my job, called me a failure, compared me to Vera at every chance. You never asked about my life, didn't even know I've had a girlfriend for 2 years, and now you want me to give you money? My father bristled. That's not fair. Actually, my grandfather cut in, his voice sharp. It's perfectly fair. The whole table went silent. You and your wife have spent years treating Callan like he's less than nothing, he said firmly. We've watched it happen, over and over. And now you expect his help? After all that? My grandmother nodded in agreement. You dismissed his work, his choices, his life. And now you're asking for handouts. And then my dad went there. Callan, let's be real. You're almost 30, still clocking hours at Target and playing handyman on weekends. At some point, you've got to grow up and do something that actually counts. I took a deep breath and looked him square in the eye. You want to hear something funny, Dad? I said quietly. That duplex Vera's living in. I don't manage it. I own it. My mother blinked, stunned. In fact, I continued, I own 5 properties now. That little side hustle you mocked? It's been my real focus for years. Target is just where I go a few days a week for steady insurance and to keep expectations low. Their mouths dropped open. Last month, my properties brought in over $20,000 after expenses, I said. My portfolio's worth about $1. 8 million now. Not that it matters to you. I leaned back in my chair and added, You've spent years mocking me for not being Vera. Turns out, I didn't need to be. The silence was deafening.